Now, concerning the question that you ask, that my followers, some of my followers, they are insultive and they are even more worse than the followers of those other people. When people talk about this, they are normally referring to either Mayowa or Raphael, but mainly Mayowa. Okay, there are two ways to answer this question. Number one is that I'm working on them. And if you notice, you will see that I have even done a video where I say, stop insulting pastors. Stop insulting pastors. I have a video like that. If you go to YouTube and search Sunday Adelaja insulting pastors, you will see it there. So I'm working on them. Now, so why is it that I don't just shut them up? So let's say I have Mayowa who is close to me and she's using language that I personally would not use. Why won't I just go ahead and stop that? Number one, I have to weigh the benefits and the good part of what she's doing as against the negative part, the negative things that I might not like personally, and that people might not like also, like might be discouraging to people. So let's say that the insults and the name calling or the insults are the things that are discouraging and that are the negative. I see that those negative things are probably about 10 to 15%, but 85% or 90% of what she's doing are actually things that are right, things that are correct. So that will stop me from outrightly putting off the whole thing she's doing, because then that will be putting off throwing away the baby and the bath water. Now then somebody will ask me and say, is it not the same thing I am doing with the pastors when I say there are no pastors and no churches in Nigeria apart from the remnants, that there are no churches in Nigeria? Am I not doing the same thing, throwing away the baby and the bath water? And it's a little bit different here, because the pastors are teaching doctrinal truth that make people to become enslaved to them. They are actually controlling the destinies of people. In this case, Mayowa is more coming like an individual, like a citizen that is talking about the things that are wrong. So it's a little bit different. Now, but let me continue saying why. First of all, you should know that I'm working on it. So I'm working on my disciples that are not using the right words. I'm working on them not in the way that some of you will expect. I'm working on them through tolerance. I'm working on them through patience. I'm working on them through understanding and love as well. And also telling you the ranges that I use, like the one I just gave. One of the parameters is that, okay, what is the percentage of the evil in that wrong name calling or insults that they use? So that's one argument, that by the time they keep on going and they keep on working, they are working on them as characters as well, and they are also going to improve. And let's say Mayowa, for example, when I see there is another factor why I'm not stopping her, is because first of all, she's a person of her own. Then some of you will say, but you are giving her the platform, so you should take responsibility. Yes, that's why I'm saying why I'm not stopping her. So the reason is because I remember when I met Mayowa and she wanted to greet me on my birthday. I think she was still in London that time. And I mean, it took her like 3 days before she could do 3 minutes video to congratulate me for my birthday. And then even that video was just quick to quickly finish. And when she was here, she was not able, when she came here, she was not even able to talk on the camera. Well, what she started to do was to just shoot people. And so going from where she was to where she is right now, I can see a lot of progress. So will I rather, because of the insults or because of the things that she's saying that is not palatable to some people, will I rather shut her down and get her back to where she used to be? I think no. So I think I would rather keep on working like that until she overcomes that the way she had overcome the shyness and the intimidation of camera. She will also overcome that character, that name calling. Now, another thing I personally am considering as a leader is that, let me talk about Mayowa herself. She is using that language because that is more familiar to her from where she's coming from. So the foul language and the insultive language or abusive language, the way people call it, that might be more our old self, our former self, that she's coming from the past. And that is the way she grew up in England. She went to school there. So she probably caught those words from relating in that environment. I don't know those even words that she's using, but some people know it. But then this is another factor. So I've got to say that is her personality. That's what I'm trying to say. So her personality might be insultive to the African audience that she's talking to a large amount of them. But another factor here where that does not allow me to do anything too much or drastic about Mayowa's situation is that, let's face it, even though Africans might not like that language, and I think it's not proper to do that, it's not Christian, because Jesus said that if you shouldn't call anybody fool or, if you call anybody fool, you'll be in danger of hellfire. And if you call anybody stupid, what was the other one? Raka or foolish, that you'll be in danger of hell. So I'm sure it's not Christian because Jesus is against it. So since it's not Christian to do that, so I cannot be in agreement with it. But why am I tolerating it? Let me give you another factor. Another factor is that even as much as we say it's not Christian and it's not African, but you cannot fight against the fact. So the figures prove to me that even our own language is more effective than my own language. And that as much as there are people who are complaining that they don't like, but there are more people who are not complaining. Or there are much more people who gravitate towards her and towards our style of addressing the issue. So that is another reason why I would not be in a hurry to put a stop to what Mayowa is doing. Because she has her followers, she has people to whom that is not a it's not a
problem. It's not a stumbling block.
What is what I'm looking for? That is not
hindrance.
That is not an hindrance. I'm looking for another word. That's not an hindrance. It's not an hindrance. So, and they follow her, and they hear her using that word, but they still appreciate what she's saying to them. So, for some reason, something is working for her. And since it's working for her, and the people who are following her are not against, it means that everybody have their own audience. Okay, now let's take it the other way and say, okay, even though people are following her, am I not the one who say it's not about crowd? Yes, I always say it's not about crowd. But in this particular case, even though it's not about crowd, but let's look at it this way. If I make her to be using my own language and to be doing things like exactly the way I do it, then what will happen is that she will end up having just those same 30, 40 people who are watching her. So what will happen to all those other 200, 300, 500 people who are watching her? She might have 500 people watching her today. So that 500 people, they will just disappear. And it will only be I will have the same 40 people, she will have the same 40 people. So where are you people who are cultured? Huh? I can see you following me who is not using foreign language. Where are you people who are Africans? I can see you people following me. So I don't have the authority in that sense to go and stop what she's doing. So that is, I don't know how many number I've already given. I'm giving so many facts so that you will see I'm looking from different angles and different dimensions. So let me tell you another reason why I'm not in a hurry to stop, especially Mayowa, from using the language and the style, and the language she's using. Why am I not stopping her? I think this is the final point I want to make. I think actually that God in his wisdom is allowing Mayowa to use that language and to have the personality she is having and to have the language, to be using the language she's using. Wow, how can God ever allow that? Well, because God is wiser than us. And because God understands what we don't understand. Because not just because of the figures and the amount of people who are listening to her, but let me tell you why. I think there is a lot of wisdom from the viewpoint of God, as I see it. This is the way I see it right now. Why God will allow Mayowa to use that kind of language against these G.Os and pastors. The reason is because these pastors have been elevated to the position of gods of men. A lot of them have been elevated to the position of dominance and to the position of deity, whereby you dare not talk to them, you dare not challenge them, you dare not talk about them, you dare not touch them. There is even a quotation that they use to manipulate people like that: touch not my anointed, touch not my anointed. And that touch not my anointed has actually become a principality in our culture. So that principality has to be broken. And for principalities to be broken, you cannot break them in a nice way. So I think God has allowed and has raised up people like Mayowa and Raphael to break principality. What do I mean break principality? Well, you can now, let's talk about these members of churches who are looking at Pastor Adeboye, for example, or Olukoya or Oyedepo as gods. Like, for example, look at what Pastor Oyedepo did. How can you be looking at him as a god when he is taking a satire writing and saying, using it as an authority for people to be praying and to be, spreading rumors and lies and doing that in a way that is just horrible? He's not listening to God. So people are looking at him as a deity, but when Mayowa comes and brings facts and then calls them name, that is breaking something in the mind of those people who are following them. That is making those people who are following them to know that no, these people are really just human beings. That look at ordinary girl, not even a pastor like them, but an ordinary girl calling them names, putting them down, using any language, and their God couldn't even do anything. And even these G.Os with their anointing, nothing happened. Now, touch not that my anointing is not working. So that is an instrument to break the principality and the deception of touch not my anointing and my anointed in the minds of people. So indirectly, God is using people like Mayowa and a language to break something in the air, in the atmosphere, and things in the minds of people, to break that principality that these people are gods. That is one. Secondly, I think God is using the kind of personality like Mayowa and the language by calling them names, by putting them down. She is removing them from the high throne, from where they have been placed. She is removing the crown from their head to make them become usual, ordinary men and women like all of us, who are susceptible to sin, who are susceptible to fallibility, who are susceptible to weaknesses, who are susceptible to mistakes. That people should stop worshiping them. So actually, God might be using people like Mayowa to destroy the spirit of idol worshiping in our culture. Not just in the church, but in our culture as a whole. And another thing that I think God is using the language of Mayowa and a style to do for the Nigerian church, which we are not appreciating now, which we might later appreciate in years to come, is that by listening to her, challenging, calling names, and calling these people by their names and using foul words for them and not putting them down, she is removing their invisibility, like people look invisible, like they're invincible, that they're like
their sacredness,
that they are sacred and invincible, that they are untouchable, that they are some invincible people. They're like ghosts, like that they are, like they are celestial beings.
Yeah.
That invincibility is being unveiled and destroyed. And that is necessary for us to be able to raise up people who are under them. Because that invincibility is what they use to captive people. That invincibility is what they use to enslave people. And that invisibility is what is bringing people into fear. And that is another thing that God is using people like Mayowa to really to address. God is using someone like Mayowa and a language to break the spirit of fear in the people who have been under the captivity and the bondage of these people. Yeah. And people who are following them have fear of them. And God said we shouldn't fear people, we should fear God. We should only fear God. So by bringing that example of not fearing them, by bringing that defiance, by defying them, by the defiance of not fearing them, is also liberating even you who don't like what she's doing. Even you people who might be angry at what she's using, at the language she's using, who might be thinking she's insultive, she's abusive, who might not be angry at her even. Why you are angry at her, you are getting deliverance. Oh. You are getting deliverance yourself. Like, knowing that, because it's going into your subconsciousness, and in your subconscious you are aware that nothing happened to this girl. How can she do it? And she's doing it. She dares to tread where angels dare not tread, and nothing is happening. So maybe those people are not angels. Maybe they are not gods. Maybe they are not deity, and they are not. So I see a lot of wisdom of God in what is happening, and I'm very sensitive to, I know what is right, I know what is wrong, but I'm also very sensitive to know how I respond to what is wrong or right. Not because she's just under me. For example, Daddy Freeze is not under me. She's not under me, actually. I don't have anybody under me. She has her own ministry. But because we are friends, and she's, my co-worker here, but Daddy Freeze is not. So even if she would not be the one using that language, maybe Daddy Freeze will, or somebody else that I will not have authority to be able to even tell. But God will still use his own way, and the people in the way that we don't always put in charge, and we are not always in control. So I don't want to become a God also, even in my own house here, even with my staff. I don't want to become somebody that just comes to to tell somebody else who is a free person, who is an individual and a personality. I can only advise. I cannot just come and say, you cannot do this, stop doing this. I can only advise. And I've been advising, but I know that I cannot make things happen in my own strength. I can only keep on working with patience, with love, and allow God and to take his due course, and allow him, and why that due course is being taken, God is also using it for good. God is also using it to set people free. God is also using it to even help these other people that they are calling names, so that they too will wake up one day and realize that we are just humans also at the end of the day. If you have been watching our videos and maybe you enjoy them, maybe you don't enjoy them, but still, we need you to help us spread the word. And for that to happen, we only need you to take 5 little steps. Please help us spread this word by liking the video. Then, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We also need you to press the notification button, and the way to do that is to click on the bell. You see the bell there? Click on it. Then, of course, leave your comments. Let's know what you're thinking about each video. And finally, we need you to go and share the word. Share this video on your Facebook timeline, on your Instagram, and every other platform that you have. All right? Let's win the world for Christ. Thank you so much.